The Galactic Alliance's council chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for an emergency session. The vast amphitheater, carved into the heart of a hollowed asteroid, held an eerie beauty. Transparent domes let in starlight, casting a faint glow over the assembled delegates, each seated according to their sector's alignment and strength. Among them sat Representative Abigail Davids, humanity's envoy. She leaned back, watching the proceedings unfold with a calculated calm, masking the storm brewing within her. For years, the Alliance had strained under the threat of the Galvor Empire, a ruthless, militaristic coalition that expanded through brutal conquest. The Galvor saw no place for diplomacy, only dominance. Now, they pressed at the Alliance's borders, tightening their grip on weaker systems, daring the rest of the galaxy to intervene. Across the table, alien leaders argued in their myriad languages, their voices rising in frustration. Abigail observed each one, taking in the nuances of their body language, noting the fearful glances that followed the name Galvor. Humanity's inaction has become a disgrace. A wiry representative from the Darsan cluster hissed, slamming his scaled hand onto the council table. His luminescent eyes fixed on Abigail, his tail twitching in irritation. While we bleed, Earth does nothing but watch. Abigail met his gaze without flinching. She knew this accusation would come. Earth had held its distance, weighed down by its past. Decades of internal conflict that had nearly torn humanity apart, leading to a deeply ingrained war weariness. Earth had built formidable defenses, unmatched by any known fleet. Yet its leaders had hesitated to involve themselves in alien conflicts, despite the Alliance's pleas. Humanity is not a warlord. Representative Lagrin, Abigail replied, her tone measured. We aim to prevent senseless bloodshed, not provoke it. Her response drew murmurs from the crowd, some disdainful, others uncertain. There were rumors about the true strength of Earth's military, tales that humans had achieved frightening advancements in weaponry and strategy. Still, until now, it was mostly myth. Some races in the Alliance believed that humanity's power was exaggerated, while others hoped it wasn't. As tensions thickened, all eyes remained on Abigail, their expressions a mix of resentment, skepticism, and desperate hope. Suddenly, the doors at the far end of the chamber swung open, and in walked the Galvor envoy, Ambassador Krethar. His hulking frame loomed over the council, his deep red armor etched with the insignia of his empire. Krethar's eyes scanned the room with a predatory gleam, a smug smile pulling at his thin lips. He seemed to enjoy the fear rippling through the hall. Abigail's eyes narrowed as he took the floor. I bring a message from Emperor Zatharax. Krethar began, his voice a low, guttural rumble that echoed through the chamber. The Alliance's resistance is pathetic, a last gasp of weakness before the inevitable. He paused, his gaze sweeping the crowd with calculated contempt. The Galvor will no longer tolerate interference. Your resistance is futile. Submit, and perhaps some of you may yet survive. His words reverberated through the chamber, leaving a chill in their wake. Several delegates looked down, fidgeting nervously. Others cast pleading glances toward Abigail, as if willing her to intervene. But she remained silent, her hands clenched beneath the table, her face impassive. She knew the time was near, but she waited, holding her response until she felt the full weight of the room's anxiety pressing down on her. Krethar's eyes finally fell on her, his lip curling. And humanity, he sneered, the so-called guardians of wisdom. Your precious Earth thinks itself above us all, yet you do nothing while others fight and die. Perhaps you are as cowardly as the others say. The sneer was intentional, a calculated provocation, and for a moment Abigail felt a flash of anger. She saw her aide, Kieran, shifting nervously at her side, silently urging restraint. Yet, something in her had shifted the moment she entered this chamber, a realization that the time for restraint had passed. Without hesitation, she stood, pushing back her chair. The murmur of the crowd stilled. eyes locking on her as she made her way to the center of the council's floor, her steps slow and deliberate. She stopped just a few paces from Crethar, her gaze fixed on him with an intensity that made him falter, if only for a second. The silence was thick as a dozen different species watched, holding their breath. "Ambassador Crethar," she began, her voice clear and strong, carrying an authority that belied her calm demeanor. "The Galvor Empire believes itself to be an unstoppable force, a threat to cow others into submission. But you misunderstand humanity." Crethar's smug grin faded, replaced by a frown as he tried to mask his surprise. "Humanity has endured more wars, faced greater threats than you could imagine," Abigail continued. "We have sacrificed, lost, and learned from those losses. We do not enter conflicts lightly, but when we do," she let the words hang, her tone sharpened to a dangerous edge. "We do not enter to lose." The atmosphere shifted as her words sank in. A spark ignited in the council chamber, kindling hope where there had been despair. Some of the representatives leaned forward, their expressions brightening, while others simply stared, struck by her resolve. Abigail took a step closer to Crethar, her voice dropping to a tone meant for him alone. "Tell your emperor that humanity will not watch idly as you trample over innocent worlds. The Alliance is no longer alone. Earth will fight." A ripple of astonishment washed over the council. The Darasan representative's eyes widened, his earlier accusation forgotten, and murmurs broke out among the delegations. Crethar's face twisted in shock, then quickly turned to fury as he spat out a response. "You will regret this, human," he snarled. "The Galvor will show you no mercy." Abigail didn't flinch, her gaze unwavering. "Neither will we." Crethar stormed from the chamber, leaving a charged silence behind. Abigail turned back to the council, meeting the hopeful, uncertain faces of the assembled races. "Let it be known that humanity stands with the Alliance," she declared. "Our strength, our resources, our lives are now yours." With those words, she had set the course, irrevocably changing the balance of power in the galaxy. The council erupted in cheers, cautious optimism woven with renewed determination. But Abigail knew this was just the beginning. The council chamber had settled into a tense silence after Abigail's unexpected declaration. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy seemed frozen, processing the seismic shift Abigail had just set into motion. She could feel the weight of their stares, some hopeful, others doubtful, a few outright hostile. But she knew her stance could not falter now. Beside her, Kieran, her young aide, whispered urgently, "Are you certain about this? Earth's government is still divided. There are those back home who won't support such a commitment." Abigail kept her voice low, her gaze still fixed on the central dais. "We've waited long enough, Kieran. The longer we hesitate, the more the Alliance fractures. Earth may be reluctant, but we've made this choice before in our own history. Waiting leads only to ruin." Her eyes narrowed as she stepped forward, mounting the dais again to face the council. "I understand that some of you may still doubt our resolve," she said, her voice ringing clearly through the chamber. "Humanity does not enter wars for glory. We enter to end them. That is our history, and it is our promise." Her gaze drifted over the assembly, pausing to meet the eyes of each species representative. She saw nervous glances, wary expressions, but also glimpses of newfound hope. The Darasan representative, Lagrin, stared back with a look that had shifted from outright skepticism to reluctant respect. It was a start. Taking a steadying breath, she launched into her address, her voice strong and unwavering. "When Earth first joined the Alliance, we were clear that we would act only in extreme circumstances. For decades, we observed from the sidelines, content to let the galaxy solve its own disputes. But that was before the Galvor. They are not a faction interested in balance or negotiation. They are conquerors, and they will not stop until every last one of you has either surrendered or been extinguished." A murmur swept through the assembly, rippling from row to row. The tension was palpable, and Abigail could feel it coiling in her own chest, ready to snap. She was about to break decades of human diplomacy, and she knew there would be no turning back. But Earth's military was ready. She'd ensured it. Now was the time to prove it. Ambassador Krethar spoke of his empire's strength, she continued, her voice tightening with determination. But he fails to understand humanity. We have faced worse than the Galvor. We have known war, death, and destruction, and we have come through the flames stronger each time. If the Galvor Empire chooses to force its iron hand upon the galaxy, then they will learn the true meaning of resistance. The murmur transformed into a low rumble of conversation, and Abigail knew that she caught their attention. Some representatives exchanged glances of cautious optimism, others of approval, but no one doubted her resolve now. She saw the impact her words had on the council, saw the sparks of unity rekindling, and felt the weight of history bending toward this moment. Still, some remained unconvinced. One of the older representatives, a stoic-looking member of the Lathanian collective, spoke up, his voice firm. "Forgive me, Ambassador Davids, but words alone won't be enough to repel the Galvor. We need actions. We need proof of Earth's commitment." Abigail inclined her head respectfully. "You're absolutely right. And humanity does not make empty promises." She gestured to Kieran, who quickly keyed in commands on his handheld device. A holographic image of Earth's space fleet appeared above the council floor, filling the chamber with projections of sleek, powerful ships, dreadnoughts, carriers, and cruisers. Each one bore the emblem of Earth, a symbol of defiance that stood stark against the vastness of space. "These are but a fraction of our deployed forces," Abigail continued, her voice steady and calm. "They are en route to Alliance space as we speak. Every vessel is equipped with the latest in human technology, designed not just for defense, but for precision and strength. We will fight, not as conquerors, but as protectors." The image slowly rotated, each ship displayed in crisp detail, its weaponry gleaming in the holographic light. For the first time, Abigail saw not doubt in the eyes of the representatives, but awe. Even the most skeptical among them seemed to regard her with newfound respect. Lagran's gaze softened, his tail no longer twitching in irritation, but curling thoughtfully. The holographic display faded, and Abigail took one last look around the chamber, letting her words sink in. "We did not come to this decision lightly. For Earth, this war will mean sacrifices, great sacrifices. But make no mistake, if we stand together, united against the Galvor, we will prevail. And if humanity has to be the first to step forward, we will gladly bear that burden." A hush settled over the council. Abigail's words hung in the air, weighty and resolute, filling the chamber with a silence that felt both somber and sacred. The representatives exchanged glances, understanding that something monumental had just shifted. Abigail had not only declared Earth's involvement, but she had united the Alliance, at least for now, under a single cause. Finally, Lagran rose, his earlier skepticism gone, replaced with a deep respect. "Earth's strength and courage are unexpected, Ambassador Davids," he said, his voice resonating with a kind of reverence. "The Darasan cluster stands ready to fight alongside humanity." One by one, other representatives rose, each pledging their commitment to the Alliance's newly reinforced cause. It was a slow but powerful cascade, each voice adding to the growing chorus, binding them together under the weight of Abigail's declaration. She felt a spark of hope flare within her, a fierce determination to see this through to the end. The Council's resolve solidified, and Abigail knew that the Alliance had crossed the threshold. There would be no retreat, no hesitation. Earth had taken a stand, and the Alliance would follow. As the representatives settled back into their seats, the chamber hummed with renewed energy, the fearful whispers replaced with discussions of strategy, logistics, and deployment. Abigail stepped back, her heart pounding with the weight of what lay ahead. She had set the galaxy on a new path, and there was no turning back now. But as she took her seat, Kieran leaned over, his voice barely a whisper. "Do you think they truly understand what this means?" Abigail's gaze drifted to the door, where Crethar had exited. She could still feel the tension he'd left in his wake, the promise of conflict looming over them like a dark shadow. She took a deep breath, meeting Kieran's gaze with unwavering resolve. "They'll understand soon enough," she replied, "because we're going to show them." A quiet hum filled the war room aboard the EFS Resolute, the flagship of Earth's newly deployed fleet. The holographic display illuminated the faces of the assembled commanders, casting an unearthly glow that only heightened the tension. General Tom Paul, humanity's lead strategist and commander of Earth's fleet, studied the fleet map intently. His rugged face bore the scars of past battles, a testament to the battles humanity had endured and survived. As he looked over the officers from both Earth and the Alliance, his gaze hardened with steely resolve. "Status update, Lieutenant Darrow," Paul commanded, his voice calm but firm. "Enemy forces detected, sir. Approximately 15 Galvor vessels, including 2 dreadnoughts," the young lieutenant replied, fingers gliding over her console. "They've established a blockade around the Nebulan sector. Our intel suggests they're preparing for an invasion of nearby Alliance worlds." Paul's eyes narrowed as he took in the tactical display. The Galvor ships appeared as red markers, clustered ominously around the contested sector. The human fleet was outnumbered, but Paul knew the Galvor weren't expecting the Alliance to fight back with any real force. That assumption would be their undoing. Beside him, Abigail David stood observing the map, her hands clasped tightly behind her back. She had fought tirelessly to bring Earth into this war, and now, as she watched the display, she felt the weight of her decision settle onto her shoulders. But there was no room for regret, only action. Paul glanced at her, reading the resolve in her face. "Ambassador, are you ready to see just how committed Earth is to this fight?" Abigail nodded. "They need to see it, General. The Alliance needs to believe we can win." Paul returned his gaze to the display. "Then let's make our move." The human fleet mobilized with precise, almost ruthless efficiency, a testament to years of disciplined preparation. Ships launched from the Resolute and its sister vessels, moving into formation around the Alliance's fleet. Many of the alien ships looked far less advanced, their hulls patched and battle-scarred, relics of an earlier, more peaceful era. But humanity's dreadnoughts were sleek and deadly, their hulls gleaming with state-of-the-art armor plating and equipped with advanced energy weapons that outmatched anything the Alliance had seen before. Entering enemy range in 60 seconds, Lieutenant Darrow announced. Paul's fingers drummed on the console as he watched the countdown. He knew the Galvor would not expect the humans' level of organization or the destructive potential of Earth's weaponry. Every element of this engagement had been calculated to make a statement. "Prepare firing solution on the Galvor lead dreadnought," he ordered, "and signal the Alliance vessels to advance with us." The Resolute shook slightly as the engine surged, propelling the human fleet forward. The Alliance ships followed, though with a slight hesitation. Abigail could see the uncertainty in their captain's movements. They had been at the Galvor's mercy for too long, and doubt had taken root. She leaned forward, activating the comms to the rest of the fleet. "This is Ambassador Abigail Davids," she said, her voice calm but carrying a steel edge. "Humanity stands with you. We will not let the Galvor advance another inch. Stand with us, and together, we will show them the price of underestimating the Alliance." Across the display, she saw the Alliance ships' icons brighten, moving forward to close ranks with Earth's fleet. She smiled slightly. The hesitation was gone. Humanity's presence had emboldened them. The Galvor fleet noticed the Alliance's sudden formation and adjusted, their ships fanning out defensively. But it was too late. General Paul gave the signal, and the Resolute fired its main cannon. A concentrated beam of blue energy lanced through space, connecting with the Galvor dreadnought, which shuddered under the impact before erupting in a brilliant explosion. Gas, debris, and shards of metal spiraled out from the wreckage, and the shockwave rippled through the Galvor's lines. Abigail felt a surge of fierce satisfaction at the sight, but she knew the battle had only begun. The Galvor ships adjusted swiftly, breaking into attack formation, but Earth's ships anticipated every move. Paul had planned for this, using Earth's nimble fighters to draw the Galvor ships into an exposed position where their defensive strategy would fail. Abigail watched the battle unfold with awe. Humanity's tactics were unlike anything the Alliance had ever attempted. Launch interceptor squadrons, Paul commanded, eyes locked on the display. I want those Galvor fighters neutralized before they reach our carriers. The human squadrons surged forward, precise and relentless, cutting through the Galvor fighters with a ruthless efficiency that left even Abigail taken aback. She'd known Earth was powerful, but witnessing it firsthand, the seamless coordination, the sheer destructiveness, was an entirely different experience. On the opposite side of the battlefield, the Alliance ships followed Earth's lead, rallying around the human vessels and launching coordinated attacks. She could see them growing bolder, daring to press forward into Galvor territory as they saw the effect Earth's weaponry was having. The tide was turning, and the Galvor were clearly unprepared for the Alliance's newfound unity. "Sir, the second Galvor dreadnought is moving to retreat," Darrow reported, her voice tinged with amazement. "They're falling back." Paul allowed himself a rare, grim smile. "Let them, but mark its trajectory. We'll be ready for them next time." The remaining Galvor ships scrambled, attempting to regroup, but the coordinated force of Earth and the Alliance gave them no opening. Ship by ship, the Galvor forces fell, until the battlefield lay littered with the remnants of their once formidable fleet. As the last of their vessels retreated into the blackness of space, a stunned silence settled over the Alliance's comms channels. Abigail exhaled slowly, feeling the magnitude of what had just happened. For the first time, the Galvor had been forced into retreat. It was a victory, but a sobering one. The Galvor would return, and next time, they'd be prepared. Paul turned to her, his expression serious. "We've won this battle, but the war is only beginning. This will force the Galvor to escalate, and they won't make the same mistake twice." Abigail nodded, her face resolute. "Then we'll escalate too. Earth will be ready, and so will the Alliance." As the wreckage drifted in the silence of space, she knew the message had been sent. Humanity had joined the fight, and they would stop at nothing to turn the tide. But she also understood that this was only the start of a war that would demand everything from them. Back on the Alliance capital world, a place where verdant forests bordered sleek cities built into towering cliffs, the Council convened in the aftermath of humanity's first decisive battle. Abigail David stood at the forefront, a quiet force amid the bustling delegations who whispered, exchanged nods, and cast glances filled with something new: respect. Humanity had proven its worth in the galaxy, and the shockwaves of that victory were still rippling through the Alliance. General Tom Paul, now recognized across the Alliance as the architect of the battle, stood beside her, arms crossed, surveying the assembly with a calm but watchful gaze. The Council's chamber, once a place where voices clashed and doubts festered, now held a quiet unity as representatives looked to humanity for guidance. Council Leader Voss, a tall figure with crystalline skin that refracted light in an array of colors, called the session to order. His voice echoed through the chamber, resolute and solemn. "Today, we gather not just to acknowledge a victory, but to recognize the change brought upon us by Earth's alliance. Humanity has shown a strength we had underestimated, a strength we must now harness if we are to survive." He inclined his head toward Abigail, his crystalline features softened in deference. "Ambassador Davids, you've given us hope. We would hear from you, as the one who first declared humanity's resolve." Abigail stepped forward, letting her gaze sweep the council chamber, feeling the weight of expectation settle over her. In this room of diverse beings, each with their own customs, histories, and fears, she sensed the burgeoning trust they had placed in her, a trust forged in battle. "We've won a single battle," she began, her voice clear and unwavering. "But this war will be long and costly. The Galvor Empire is relentless, and I have no illusions about the sacrifices it will take to defeat them. Yet, humanity does not stand here offering empty promises. We offer our commitment. To every one of your worlds, your people—" She paused, letting her words sink in. The weight of humanity's pledge hung in the air, and for a moment, silence held them all. Then, she continued, her voice carrying a fierce determination, "We will not let this alliance crumble. Earth's resources, our technology, our soldiers, all of it is now at the service of the alliance. But for this to succeed, we need more than just shared strength. We need shared purpose. The Galvor seek to divide us, to exploit any weaknesses in our resolve. We cannot allow them that advantage." General Paul stepped forward, his voice low but firm. "Humanity's experience in conflict has taught us a simple truth. United resolve can overcome even the most formidable of enemies, but that unity must be more than words. Each of us must be willing to stand for the alliance as if it were our own family, our own world on the line." Lagrin, the Darasan representative who had once openly doubted Earth's commitment, rose to his feet. His scales glimmered under the chamber's lights, and his eyes held a respect that hadn't been there before. "The Darasan cluster stands with humanity. We have learned our lesson, and will fight with you, Ambassador Davids." One by one, representatives from various systems and factions stood, voicing their allegiance to the alliance, some with hesitant loyalty, others with fierce declarations of readiness. Abigail felt her heart swell with a fierce pride. This unity, tenuous though it might be, was a spark of hope against the darkness pressing in from the Galvor Empire. Council Leader Voss nodded gravely as the last voices echoed through the hall. "Then it is decided. The alliance stands as one. We will fight together, or we will perish together." Abigail stepped back, her mind whirling with the magnitude of what lay ahead. She knew the challenges would be immense. The Galvor had resources and experience in war beyond what most of these species could fathom. Humanity alone could not turn the tide. But together, with their newfound allies, their combined fleets and shared strategies, there was a chance. After the session concluded, Paul turned to her, a hint of admiration in his steely gaze. "You did well, Ambassador. They believe in us. But you know as well as I do that belief alone won't save us." She met his gaze, her expression resolute. "No, it won't. But it's a start. And we'll give them something to believe in, something they'll fight for until the end." They walked together toward the war room, where strategies would be drawn, battle plans reviewed, and alliances solidified. As they entered, the room was already filled with alliance officers, alien generals, admirals, and tacticians who had once seen each other as rivals or, at best, uneasy allies. Now they were comrades in arms, bound by a common cause. Paul looked around the room, his gaze falling on each officer in turn. "If we're going to win, we need to think beyond our individual tactics and strategies. The Galvor adapt quickly. We need to be one step ahead, together. Earth has the technology, and we're ready to share it. But it's only effective if we operate as a single, cohesive force." A Kelleran admiral, known for her fierce independence, nodded slowly. Her luminescent eyes met Paul's, and she spoke with a newfound resolve. "Kalora will follow Earth's lead in this. If you can help us adapt, we will be your strongest allies." As each officer pledged their support, the weight of the commitment bore down on Abigail. She understood that these were not just words. They were lives, entire civilizations placing their faith in her. The cost of failure would be devastating, not just for Earth, but for every species in the Alliance. Before they dispersed, Abigail took one final look around the room, seeing the determination etched into every face, the fire that had been lit by Earth's example. Humanity had become a catalyst, a force that had ignited hope across the galaxy. She turned to Paul. "We've given them a reason to believe. Now it's time to give them a victory." Paul nodded, a fierce light in his eyes. "Then let's get to work." As they left the war room to prepare for the next battle, Abigail knew the road ahead would be perilous. But with each step, each battle, and each alliance forged, humanity and the alliance moved closer to becoming an unbreakable force, a beacon of resistance that even the Galvor Empire would struggle to extinguish. And with Earth's resolve leading the charge, she knew they would fight until the stars themselves bore witness to their victory.